just in case it wasn't abundantly clear, This Weird Road is for adult audiences. We use a lot of potty language, and that's okay. But if your mom doesn't want you to listen to those kind of words, maybe you should tune into something else. I mean, personally, I don't think you should, but, I'm not your mom. So, with that in mind, sit back, enjoy the show. We hope you learned something. Welcome to This Weird Road with Ulf and Boli. It's my man Ulf. I'm Boli.
Hello.
Pleasure to meet you. We're coming to you this week from PTRN talking about Asatru as a non-theistic philosophy.
Which is to say, there are, with most spiritual paths, two ways to view things. And most people view it through the filter, I guess, of deities, or deity, or what have you. But Asatru is just as valid without that filter. It's a completely valid philosophy for dealing with day-to-day things in your life. The
Right.
9, as they're shortened to most of the time, are just as valid and viable for those of us who can speak English, which again I am not doing this week.
You don't talk the goodliest Americans, that's for sure.
I do not. But they're just as viable with any deific or spiritual pretense stripped from them if you look at them purely as philosophical tenets to live your life by.
Right. Most, like you said, most religions have a sort of underlying, good set of morality,
right,
or ethics that can be used that don't involve the deity. Usually there's heroes or just examples that you can go by.
Parables, lessons, what have you.
Right. As I was saying, all fair, the only one I can think of that doesn't really encourage that is the Abrahamic religions.
Yeah.
Most of them sort of push, as I usually say, the magic sky daddy as the go-to.
As I put it, the filter of spirituality, the fact that you can only interpret these philosophies and rules to live by as they pertain to the spiritual half of things. Which, we're not saying there's anything wrong with that, but with Asatru, if you choose to come into it looking at it purely as a philosophy, that's fine. Matter of fact, I know several people that look at it that way. And my take on it is, as long as you live a good life and try to do what you do, try to be a good person. As I often say, the 9 break down to be a good person, don't be a dick.
Yeah, that's
treat others nice. If you can do that, I don't care if you, if the deities are more important to you, or the word is more important to you, or a little bit of both.
Right. Funny thing
is the classification of the word, letter, or spirit in a slightly different context of the thing.
See, I think about it more like you have examples that you can go by. People or deities, whatever, that you can emulate in day-to-day life without thinking of them as deities. You can follow their actions.
Follow the lesson, no matter who it was that laid it down.
And the only reason I say that you can't do that with the Abrahamic faiths is Yahweh or, whomever, whatever name you want to use, is sort of autocratic, and basically only dictators can live like that. I'm sure Kim Jong-un has a field day acting like he thinks a god would. But
it's an interesting day in that house,
I am not going to get into that because that will get us hurt.
Yes, that will get us a faceplate.
But anyhow, with that, you have some very basic things, and they go across the board of most faiths. You have examples of bravery and of cunning, of just in general how to be a decent person.
Yeah, treating other people fairly.
In most of
honorably.
And like how one of the things I like to point out is that even in like in the Greek pantheon, they were not solid personifications of just this one thing. That's all they did. They were people with flaws.
Yeah.
And horrible anger issues, mainly. They're perfect. And with the Greek and many others, it's usually just emotional things that they go off the end about. But, we have a one-eyed deity, a one-handed deity, a fellow who had his lips sewn shut,
a blind deity.
A blind deity. And whatever being the long-legged would entail. Hodder.
Yeah.
Or Honir.
Honir, yeah.
I talk the goodliest. But no, Honir was often just mentioned as the long-legged. And I'm
I think was a way of saying he was tall even among the gods, but...
See, I often thought of feminine.
Yeah, I was going to say, maybe it's that he had nice gams,
That could just be a modern filter, though. Like, that could be...
Well...
We're like, hey, buddy, did you see the gams on that chick?
Well, to be fair, I mean, we kind of interpret it all, at least to a degree, through a modern filter.
Well, we don't have much choice in that.
Exactly. Well, yeah, that's my point. Because that's our filter. That's where we're at.
We have... But, I was saying, like, we have examples in other faiths of how to do things.
Yeah.
You have Thor personifying bravery and duty. To attach that to the 9, that would, be courage and industriousness or self-reliance.
So, yeah, he was pretty big on the self-reliance.
Which would be why during their trip to Utgard-Loki, he got so frustrated when he couldn't open their bag. He's like, oh, I know we've got food in there, but this butthead has... Are you happy? This butthead has tied it up so that I can't get into it. This must be magic.
But also, again, to look at the same things through slightly different filters or from different angles, Loki personifies self-reliance in different ways. And industriousness, really, too, because he went through things very efficiently and very much his own way in a lot of ways, but he got it done. Sometimes he got it done so he didn't get killed, but he still got it done.
Well,
and once he even got a horse done. But that's a completely different thing that I'm about to get a beer bottle flung at me for. So, moving on.
Tonight's conversation brought to you by beer. Helping white people dance since forever.
Yeah, really. Confidence in a bottle. There are also examples of...
You brought up Loki. I would like to point out that he also represents fidelity. In that his wife stuck by him, or stands by him, or will stand by him, depending on where you feel we are in the...
cosmic rotation of things?
Sure, that's a way to put it. By him, even though all the other gods, with the exception of Odin, were out for his neck.
Yeah, they were pretty fed up with him after a point.
Oh, that's because he aired everybody's dirty laundry.
But yeah, you're correct. His giantess wife stood by him through...
No, Sagan was Acer.
Oh, okay, well, he did have both.
He had fathered his 2/3 of his children with Angrboda, who was the giantess.
Correct.
Well, I guess 3/4 of his children. No? He had 5. Fenrir, Jormungandr.
Give him a minute, folks. Mathing isn't either one of us.
Shut your cake hole.
The point is...
3/5 of his children were with the giantess.
With Angrboda.
Yes.
Yeah, the giant. A giantess also, who we may get into in a separate show, because she was very well known for her magic and things. But you were saying that
provided the beer of memory, which clearly I could use.
Right. But you were saying that his wife is a good example. He and his wife are a good example of fidelity because his other wife.
Right. Well, his Azer wife.
Right.
Well, Angrboda was not his. They mated. That was basically it.
Was basically it. See, again, the tales being set down differently. Some basically describe her as his wife until she dies, and then he has the Azer wife. But we don't know if that's how that happened. So, but I keep derailing him. It's my fault this week.
No,
we're saying she stood by him no matter what.
She stands beside him, and you know, everyone there has a good example through the stories of each of the virtues.
Yeah, usually more than, they don't just lay one on. It's another one of those. It's not simplified. They don't lay just one on one person.
Right. Like you definitely. I'm not sure I would put, say, discipline on Thor.
No, Thor.
Angry.
Thor is always pictured as very short of temper, so he is not a good example of discipline.
Discipline, you could certainly say, for Odin, becomes. Damn.
Well, I
can't talk today. He became Bulwark in search of the meat of poetry. Worked as a mortal man under the, as a thrall to a giant.
Well, I mean, you can even go more simple than that with Odin and that same principle. He hung from a tree for 9 days and 9 nights with no food, no water. That's definitely a kind of discipline.
Some might call it masochism.
Whatever. He was bleeding and wounded as well, so because he pierces himself with Gungnir as a sacrifice of himself to himself.
That couldn't have been Gungnir. Because...
You're right, with Aether, he didn't have Gungnir yet.
I was going to say, because that was before the creation, I guess you'd say, of
the six...
of Asgard and all that other business.
Well, yeah,
I mean, that would have been before...
Any of it,
yeah.
Yeah, that was actually...
After the creation of Midgard, but before... populating anyway Asgard.
Yeah, I was actually reading a interpretation of the stories earlier today of that particular story. In fact, where the story of the gifting, and before they get to that, he mentions how Odin. The story I read before that was of Odin getting the wisdom, getting the runes and the wisdom, and sacrificing his eye. And they mention how when he went out in search of those things, in search of the wisdom, there wasn't anything else yet.
Right.
It was pretty much just him and a scattered few others and giants, because he had to go through the land of giants to get to Mim as well. Now, it may sound to some like, even though we said we're talking about the philosophy of it and not the spirituality, it may seem like we're getting into the spirituality of it. But what we're saying is that these stories serve as good lessons and philosophies without taking these people literally as deities, basically.
Yeah,
but the lessons are here to learn, no matter what you call them.
Yeah, you could give them other names and still follow these stories as this is John Q. Odin, and he's doing this.
Yeah.
So even if you take all the mythic features out of it, you would still have good examples. Yeah.
Right. And not always for good reasons. I mean, I will be the first to say that in our stories, the things our gods do aren't all, or heroes, the things done in our stories. I almost stepped on my own context, my own pretext there.
Right.
The things done in the stories aren't always altruistic. They aren't always for good reasons. Some of them are selfish. Some of them are for lust or for, not really greed, but I guess in a sense, but greed for power, not necessarily money in most cases.
Freya
to be able to call a certain something theirs.
Freya going for the Bressingman.
For her necklace.
That was clearly an act of, how would you put that? I don't want to say greed.
Bravado, for one, because she was all very
wasn't bragging about it.
Well, not in public per se, but she was all about, she knew, I got this. It was very...
This is the most beautiful of this thing.
Yeah, it was self-reliance in the negative way. It was that to where it becomes arrogance. She was like, I'm pretty enough, I'm got a good body enough, I'm this, I'm that, I will get Brigham because of it. And she did. So she paid a price that, as you say, she didn't really want to talk to the others about.
I find it funny that story was actually the source of the animosity between Loki and Heimdall. It'd be why they kill each other at Ragnarok.
Mm-hmm.
Heimdall was miffed that Loki followed her to find that information, and that he had that information and Heimdall didn't. That's how I take it. But Heimdall, also considered an Azer, has no Azer parents. He has 9 giant mothers and no father.
But and that right there would be an example of pride in the stories, because Heimdall supposedly being all-seeing and not as all-knowing as Odin, but his senses are great. He sees into the 9 worlds.
That is not me.
So.
Sorry about that, folks. Had a little technical difficulty. We were talking about how Heimdall and Loki are at each other's throats because of basically Loki went and witnessed something that Heimdall could not.
Yeah, the thing is, I think the jealousy was Heimdall who can see into all realms, thinking, how can you witness something I missed? Well, you could also take it to a dirty place.
Well, yeah, I would, because...
Oh, you got to see that, did you? And I didn't get to... Damn you.
Well, I would take it there. I believe another bit of animosity would come in that Odin defended Loki's position and not Heimdall's. But again, in an act of jealousy, and there's a lot of it in that story, Odin tells Loki to get the necklace from her.
Yeah.
Because, how dare you go get something.
This is kind of an all that glitters is gold sort of story.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's a story full of jealousy and, at least to a point, greed. So we're talking about taking things as a philosophy, but, if you're going to look at things as a philosophy, you have to take the bad with the good. Philosophical paths aren't all just a good part of nature.
Well, you could do it the other way, but you're an idiot if you do.
Right.
Because that's no way to live your life, expecting everything to be perfect.
To take any philosophical path as all good is to go with complete blinders on at that point. And nothing is good with blinders on, just ask a horse.
Well, I don't know about nothing. Anyhow.
Except blindfold, total difference.
I was thinking pony play. But anyhow.
This is where our minds go, folks.
Hey. Friendship is magic, okay? You keep your mind out of the gutter, buddy.
What,
I was talking about Twilight Sparkle and Rapidash and all that other business. I mean, that's a Pokemon.
Yeah.
Raven's trying to kill me with her eyes.
You're getting all your deacons confused and getting us way off tangent. Which, by the way, folks, if you tune into this show expecting us to stay on one tangent, you are going to be disappointed. Amused, but disappointed.
But anyhow, yeah, I think there's a lot of layers to that story that you could certainly address.
There probably
a lot of topics.
Or not just probably. There are to a lot of the stories, but yeah, that one in particular is very onion-like.
Yes.
In that the layers.
I'm an ogre.
Actually, that's one of those that don't involve ogres or trolls. They're in there in others, but excuse me.
The Lay of Thrym.
Okay. There are plenty of lessons to be. We're getting our technical advisor, if you will, is pointing something out to us. There are lots of lessons to be taken from the story of the Lay of Thrym, which is also known to some people as the day Thor dressed in drag. When people bring that up, as a Thorsman, I like to say he doesn't really like to talk about that story, but in truth,
ooh, your eyes are so red.
He did what he had to do,
Grandma.
Oh yeah, when he's getting at one point, I figured that had to be the hard part of the story for Thor. Not dressing in drag, not going in front of this hall in front of all these giants dressed as a woman. But the 2 points I figured were worse for him were losing his hammer, because that's a point of pride and dignity right there, and then having this giant hit on him. And he's got to sit there and take it
Well,
for a minute.
until, his hands are on his hammer and he smashes him with a hammer.
Yes, that's good, because the giant was about to find a hammer he didn't expect to find. So,
like a lady.
For those that don't know, since we're addressing in rather broad strokes, there's a story in which Thor's hammer goes missing. Mjolnir goes missing. And I'm going to shortcut
It's Mew Mew.
Yes, Mew Mew goes missing. For those of you who prefer to adjust it through its pop name, that I want to strangle them for a little bit.
No. Kat Dennings can
I mean,
call
it's
it
adorable when
anything
she says
she
that.
wants. Kat, if you're listening, please call.
He'd be your Mew Mew.
I'll be whatever you want me to be.
The hammer goes missing. They find out that a giant king actually has it, and Loki's like, we can fix this. I can get it back. This is a popular line of Loki's. I can fix it. I can get it back. All you have to do is pretend to be Freya and marry him.
And then he's like, Jiggle,
dress like a woman.
Yeah.
And Thor's like, excuse me, I have to what?
And he's like, don't worry, I'll be there too. I'll be a woman too.
And what's rather amusing is...
I find it odd that even though he can shapeshift into a female, he still just chose to dress as a woman.
I think he was trying to make Thor feel better at that point.
Instead
He's trying to make his traveling buddy like, I got you, buddy. I'll go through this with you. Much like you and I have been in race of this. But what I find amusing about that story is at no point did Thor shave his beard.
Well, why would he?
So the best interpretations I've heard is he was under some sort of veil, so the giant couldn't tell that it was a man.
It's mentioned that he kept trying to peek under the veil.
Yeah, so he basically had a wedding veil on.
And he saw Thor's eyes, and it's like, oh, Grandma, your eyes are so red. And he's like, because I haven't slept because of anticipation to be here on your lap.
When really his eyes were red from anger and probably need.
Probably more of the latter.
Probably, but anyway, there are a whole lot of lessons to be taken from that particular story. One of which is probably don't judge a book by its cover.
Could be, or just giants are dumb.
Giants are dumb is kind of a theme throughout most of it.
Hey, we know that Freya's the absolute picture of perfection. Yet here's this huge hulking chick
who says she's Freya.
Her voice sounds as deep as the sea for our Cthulhu fans. Sorry, fan. But, here's this broad, muscular woman.
Because no amount of clothing really could downplay that, I would think, because he's always described as so massive and muscular, Thor is, that you got to think, even in women's clothing, it's like, my Freya, you've gone and beefed up.
Your legs look like tree trunks. Why is that? And
long walk here.
And, Freya's always been said to have, 9, I don't want to say servants or even handmaidens or anything like that, just like...
attendants?
There we go. That's companions?
Yeah, and there were none of those,
and there was just this
one that was
one, I'm going to assume, probably not terribly attractive woman with her who's going, no, coming up with all the excuses. Because Thor's like, I just want to, and he's like, she hasn't slept in days. Out of excitement to be here,
and
buddy.
Humility is definitely a lesson in that one.
Yeah. Don't go losing your hammer if you can't take the embarrassment. I hate when I lose my hammer.
I hate when you embarrass us with it.
You do not.
But, there's also a lesson there in that Thor, one of the mightiest of the gods, is, doing what, no disrespect at all to any of the awesome women out there I know, but in his viewpoint, kind of lowering himself here to dress like a woman and play silent and not be boisterous and loud.
He said in his
so that
not his.
So that he can get his hammer back. And, I think it's a lesson that, no matter how high you sit, you have to basically be among the common folk.
Well, that, also would be a unique perspective for him because among the culture, like we mortals, women were just as empowered as the men.
Mm-hmm.
One of the studies last year at an archaeological dig found that almost 50% of the skeletons found in at this particular battlefield were female.
Did it turn out to be that high? No.
Yeah, it was like 46% or something like that.
That's one of 2 or 3 studies where they basically validated that
the whole
shield maidens aren't just a myth. Yeah.
And that we didn't come up with that in the modern age. That's a thing.
That's an actual thing. Yeah.
It comes down to the whole only a Spartan woman can make a Spartan, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Which the Spartans were nowhere near as cool as they were portrayed.
Yeah.
They were horrible people. Who also thought they were descendant of Hercules, which would be the Grecian analog to Thor, since we need to broaden this out a bit.
Analog things?
Well, I mean, we did go into this with the preset of talking about other faiths and whatnot as philosophies.
Philosophies.
We're being given a sign here from the engineer, not like a deity.
That
would be pretty cool. Are you a wizard?
Harry.
Thanks for listening to us babble for the last 27-ish minutes.
We're really good at that. That's why they gave us a show. Because somewhere in the babble was usually important, coherent things.
But we are coming up to our first break, or our only break, isn't it?
Yes, we're going to take a break in the babble.
Yeah, and we will be right back with This Weird Road on PTRN. Thank you for listening.
Stay tuned.
You've been listening to This Weird Road with Ulf and Boli. I'm Boli Thorne. Thank you for listening, and if you have any questions or comments, please contact us at the PTRN call-in line at 502-276-5665. Thank you. We hope you enjoy the show.
Favorite sauce?
Any brown sauce. You?
Still mayonnaise. Paper or plastic?
I'm a paper man.
Glad you care about the environment.
I do.
What do you call the color of your hair?
Electric copper. What about yours?
White gold, rust belt.
Rust belt.
Yeah.
Boom, 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 boom,
Ping.
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 boom, 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 boom.
Friends sing together, la 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 la. Friends do things together, la 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 la. Friends laugh together, ha 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 ha. Friends make graphs together, la 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 la. Friends help you when you're in danger. Friends are people who are not strangers. Friends help you shift to a new place, tell you if you've got food on your face. Friends are the ones on whom you can depend.
He's my friend, he's not my friend. Friends are the ones who are there in the end. He's my friend, they're not my friends. If you trip over, I'll catch you fall. If you kick my dick, I won't break your balls.
If you get drunk and vomit on me, I'll make sure you get home safely.
If you cross the road and a truck struck you,
I'll scrape you up and reconstruct you. I'll cheer you up if you're depressed.
if you get murdered, I'll avenge your death.
Friends walk together, la 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 la. Pop and lock together, me and him together, la 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 la. Me and Jim forever.
Friends go jogging at the track. Friends borrow money, never pay it back. Friends do not let friends do crack. Friends go out and grab a snack. Friends drink beer in the sun.
Unlike girlfriends, they don't mind if you have more than one. Friends tell you when your fly's undone.
Your fly's undone.
My Uncle John had a special friend. They dressed alike, his name was Ben. I've never seen two friends like them. They were very, very friendly men. Boom, la 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 la. Boom, friends, friends, friends. Boom, la 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 la. Friends, 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 friends. La 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 la. Friends, 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 friends. La 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 la. Friends, la 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 la. Bing.
This Weird Road is intended for a mature audience. Listener discretion advised. You've been listening to This Weird Road with Ulf and Boli. I'm Boli Thorne. Thank you for listening, and if you have any questions or comments, please contact us at the PTRN call-in line at 502-276-5665. Thank you. We hope you enjoy the show.
Welcome back, folks, to This Weird Road. I'm Ulf. That's Bully.
Hola.
Who is a bully sometimes, but mostly not. I just pronounce things wrong on occasion. And this week we are discussing how to basically live Asatru or heathen as a philosophical lifestyle or view on life, and how you can pretty much take it completely independent of spiritual things if you are so inclined. Now,
well, one of the things to mention there is that most Asatru do not practice magic.
Yeah.
Which a lot of other pagans do.
Yeah, most other pagan paths that I know of are very magic centered, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. That's their thing, and that's cool. But for
not
us,
to say that there isn't magic there. There's runes.
Yeah, I was going to say magic is part of it. It's just not a focal point for us. There's rune magic. There's Sid magic, and there's actually I think that's kind of it.
Yeah.
But that's it as far as magic. But
there's a masculine version of Sid that I can't remember what it's called. Because that was one of the things that was always brought up, is how there was basically two separate. This is magic for men. This is magic for women.
You know, I've heard it addressed, but I don't know if I've ever heard it given a name.
And it's brought up that that Odin is a master of Sid.
Yeah.
So
which is supposedly rare for men. But today we're trying to discuss heathenism or Asatru as a path of the philosophy of everything.
For
atheists, to take from it and such.
Asatru for atheists, 101.
Would that make an atheist? That was really hard to say.
You shut your pile.
But the funny part is, I don't know too many Asatru who take it as purely spiritual. Most of the ones I know either view it as a spiritual, as a philosophical slant on life, or as a little bit from column A, a little bit from column B.
Right.
Which is kind of where I'm at myself. And I think you are too, but I think our difference is I think I err a little more toward the spiritual and you err a little more toward the philosophical.
Yeah, mainly, and I didn't start out that way.
Me either, but
because I came to this from, I really don't want to even say Wicca, because that was, like the first 6 months of my discovery of non-Christianity.
Right.
Kind
of generalized paganism.
Yeah, just kind of I guess like kitchen witchery, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And so I started out very heavily theistic, and you see things in a different way when you're like that. And I've had to come to a point where my home is very science-based. Like, we try to teach our kids, how to view the world logically and to be, basically, use their critical thinking in everything.
Right.
And Minnie is all about the theistic parts. But she is definitely a critical thinker and will ask me questions about, well, how would you explain this,
right,
scientifically?
Sometimes the answer has to be, we can't.
Hey, well, true, but I always do my best. And we talked about it last week, about how the Gunungan Gap could be considered the void of space. Right. And, Muspelheim would be the heat of a star. And so she honestly is what got me thinking of it that way. Got me thinking in those practical senses, is where everything is basically an analog for the real world.
Right. Which, really is how most religions come about. I mean, if you really want to pick the fruit dry of it, so to speak, that, is man, primitive beings at some point in creation, at some point, some place, different places on Earth did it different ways, basically going,
We all had to
we need a reason for this.
We all had to define the thunder.
Yeah.
And that's, when we're huddled in our caves and trying to figure out why the Earth essentially is angry at us.
And where fire comes from and all these fun things.
Right.
And why the dark isn't going to eat us. Or, as many stories have in many cultures, why there are things in the dark that will eat us.
Because
almost every culture has boogeyman type stories.
I bring this up kind of often.
That's maybe a topic for later.
I kind of bring this up often in that there are essentially genetic fears. There are things that worldwide people are afraid of, which wouldn't make sense in a purely scientific point because we do not share a full history with people.
Yeah, at that
but
you're
yet,
going into
pale skin, odd-shaped teeth, big eyes. These are all things that sort of creep us out worldwide.
I think at that point you may be going into something I've heard discussed called ancestral memory, where,
Well, that's all instinct is.
Yeah, our fears, certain fears are just so ingrained within us as beings, as humans, not even as a culture, because like you said, it crosses cultural lines, but ingrained within us somewhere as humans that, we know to be afraid of even now, for whatever reasons, even if the reasons have changed, or even if that thing's not there anymore.
Well,
somebody way in our past went, and now we go,
Venomous and poisonous things have these bright colors, usually,
Yeah.
and the average person wouldn't know that, but we do instinctively fear them.
Yeah.
We know that fire's hot, even as children.
Yeah.
We know not to touch the crap. So,
Or you learn to stay away from fire by your friend heating up the point of a knife to white heat and touching it to your shoulder. Does this hurt?
There's my forearm, and
then they get pulled away like cheese, and they get punched in the face.
A couple times.
Therefore, you both learn fire bad.
I was telling Minnie this story this morning before heading out here.
I actually told Raven this story first time she'd heard it, believe it or not, all the time of knowing me, yesterday.
That's weird. But so anyhow, we have a lot of stories and a lot of overlapping things with other religions.
Mm-hmm.
That means you can take out the figures.
Yeah, because really it all comes down to most of the world religions, not all of them, I guess, but most of them come down to lessons on how to be a good person. However, that particular society that first developed it views that,
Some of them are okay with marrying 9-year-olds. I'm not.
Right.
Most of the world isn't.
I'm just saying that most of the paths come down to this is what we think it takes to be a good person.
Right.
Do this and don't be stupid. Unfortunately, you get a lot of stupid in there, and it changes things. But not you personally.
Right. No. One of the reasons. Shut up. One of the reasons that I feel that Asatru lends to that so well is that you don't have to have. Our deities have nothing to do with where we end up in the afterlife. It is purely our actions.
It is
we
what
are
you
not,
do or don't do, what you do or don't say.
There is no one watching us while we're sleeping who knows when we're awake.
Right.
Who knows if we've been bad or good. So we should be good for goodness sake.
I actually saw something the other day that summed it up pretty well. It said,
Odin
won't help you with your problems, but he will give you the strength and courage to do it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, at least from my personal viewpoint on things through Asatru, that sums it up pretty well.
Yeah.
Our gods are there
as examples.
Yeah, exactly. Which is why you can take it completely without the gods and still be okay, as long as you heed those being examples.
One of our, what would you even call what we do? One of our friends at the Moot,
yes,
had asked me. He'd asked kind of publicly actually about heathens and prayer, and I said, I don't really pray, and I don't think most of us do because of that. In the end, we are judged by how well did we use our own facilities.
Yeah.
How well did you get through life without leaning on others?
Yeah, whereas some religions do seem to be how well do you get through leaning on the deity.
Right.
Ours very specifically is how well do you get through without leaning on your deities.
Right. And
you can respect them and honor them and all this without using them as crutches.
I have known people who, even in our own faith, who've been very dependent as far as that's concerned, and they've come from more dependent faiths. And
I very briefly was, but
well, no, I met this woman at a Half Price Books who was telling me that she basically consults the runes or tarot cards before making even the most mundane decisions in her life. And
doesn't make sense to me.
There's a book about rune reading that suggests it, and it's by someone. It's actually by a Christian author, which I find incredibly funny.
Yeah.
But who suggests consulting the runes for everything. Like, what am I gonna? Should I have coffee with my breakfast? Jiggle, jiggle, jiggle. No, you shouldn't. Coffee's a diuretic. Drink water, okay? But the people. I know I'm going to get hate mail, assuming anyone hears us.
Right. Assuming anybody besides us listens to the sound of our voices.
I didn't listen to the last one. I was here for it. But no, I'm sure that there are people who hold coffee in a much higher regard than they do their own deities. But I think our path depends on you being non-dependent. That's why...
It sounds kind of funny to put it that way, but yeah.
But I mean, that's why self-reliance is a virtue.
Yeah.
You don't need to ask somebody else...
permission to live your freaking life.
Right. Do the things that are right, that you know are right.
Yeah.
Defend the innocent.
And see, that right there goes back to lending itself very well to a philosophy, because it's pretty much look at the stories, learn from the lessons, know there what is right, so you have what is right set in your heart, and then make your choice. If you do or don't do right, that's on you. That's not on another person. That's not on a deity. That's on you.
Right.
And, you'll answer for it in this life or you'll answer for it in the next. Again, that depends partly on your outlook, but, what goes around comes around is kind of a tenet that's in there too, not in those words, but...
One of the ways that I often say it is that because I don't pray and because I don't use magic, no one can claim my victories
but you,
but me, and I can't blame anyone else for my failures, which there are plenty, but I own all of it.
Actually, I can think of a small way in which I know you do use magic. It's very small, and it's not something you do often, and it's actually something I've picked up from you as well.
Telekinesis.
Before you go on a long journey, like a long road trip, you'll mark certain runes on your car.
Oh, yeah, I stav my car.
Yeah, and I've taken to where I do that too before one of us goes on a long journey in the car. So, very minor way in which, but, like you said, not something we do a lot.
Yeah, I definitely don't do it every day, and I certainly don't consult the runes before making eggs.
Yeah.
Do I want them hard-boiled or over-easy? And how would you even interpret that from a rune that has, hey, here's, 23 or 24, depending on which set you use, bits of universal truth. How about you apply it to what kind of freaking eggs you want? Nobody cares.
Yeah.
No one gives a crap what you do in your day-to-day life.
Yeah, it's the big things you do that matter. And
Well, the
Well, I
little
mean, the
things
small
do
things
too.
matter too. Yeah, I don't want to disqualify that. To, and I'm probably going to get an eye roll from Boli here. To quote one of my favorite movies, nothing is trivial. The little stuff does matter. But, like you said,
I'm with you.
You don't consult the gods or the oracles or whatever for what kind of eggs you want or whether or not you're going to go to the store today.
Right, and I mean the way
That's leaning too heavily on magic and in some ways too heavily on the deities, in my opinion. And like you said, self-reliance is a big deal for us.
I mean,
Big deal.
this woman that I spoke to said that she has not left her home on days when she's needed groceries, things like that, because the runes told her not. You guys couldn't see the air quotes. The runes told her not to leave, and it's like, no, I don't think there was ever anything that specific in any form of oracle. The whole point of oracle is that it's vague.
Yeah, that's really dialing things down, watering things down.
Yeah.
Really heavily. But what that there is, see, that sounds like a tangent away from our original subject, but it's actually a good example, really, of what not to do if you're going to live by them as a philosophy, by Asatru as a philosophy.
Well, she claimed, and actually I shouldn't even say it that way, because I am the guy who says, if someone says they're Christian whether you like it or not.
Yeah, the same for
like
Asatru.
Anders, what's his name, the guy who shot all those kids in Norway. Yeah, I'm glad I don't know his name, because screw him. But
his name is not worth remembering.
Right. But all those people were like, he's not a Christian, he's not a real Christian. You don't get to say that. Like I said, I don't want to remember his name. But people, you don't get to say what someone else is. You don't get to say so-and-so's not a real heathen, so-and-so's not a Christian. You don't get to do that. That's on them.
Right.
And they get to deal with whatever repercussions come later. I personally hope that he has his own very Christian hell to rot in and do everything else that they say will happen to you there. Even though that's a fairly new concept, too, among Christianity. So, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. We're good.
Oh, I was just going to say that we have people who say that they're Asatru that we don't agree with.
Right.
I personally cannot tell them, no, Mr. Skinhead, you are not Asatru, because I don't think that that's how it works. If that's how he interpreted it, and he or she identifies with our deities, then that's on him. That's his or her.
With our philosophy, with the philosophy.
Right.
If not
that's their screwed up mentality.
And that'll come back on them in their way, in their time, I should say.
See, I don't even think karma's become one of these things that is no longer Indian. Lots of people claim to believe in karma, and there's just too many horrible people that live good lives for me to say that karma's a thing.
Yeah. Too many bad people get away with too much.
Yeah. The person who's currently sitting in the seat of the president, who is not the president, the head Cheeto in charge.
Yes.
Well, we can't call him the HNIC. So.
No, we can't. HCIC, head Cheeto in charge.
That's right. What? Anyhow, basically we don't get to say who is or who isn't.
Yeah, that's between them and whatever is or isn't next.
I'm no fan of skinheads or white nationalists or whatever, neo-Nazis, but it's still, if they want to say that that's what they are, then that's up to them. All we could do is provide a better example.
Exactly. I was going to say that more upon when those negative examples come, that's more upon those of us who hold ourselves apart from that negative example to provide a positive example of what a good heathen is, what a good Asatru is, what a good person is. No other label to it.
Right.
What a good person is, and
That's what any of it should come down to is
not enough of it does, which I think is part of why we decided to do this show on, philosophy, the philosophy of it versus the spirituality of it, because not enough of it comes down to just be a good person.
Right. Well, I mean, there's a lot of people who will use their religion as shorthand. It's like, well, clearly I'm a good person. I'm a Christian. I go to church. Clearly I'm a good person. I go to synagogue. Whatever. And as I explained to a mutual friend of ours, she had said that if she was ever to be forced into a religion, our atheist friend, who's actually my inspiration for wanting to do this particular topic, she said that she would go for Judaism. And I'm like, well, Judaism does not follow the divinity of Jesus. Therefore, they do not accept Jesus as the last sacrifice. I said, so that means it's out there somewhere. There are Jews who still practice human sacrifice. Don't give me that. It's true.
Or at least animal.
Maybe. But, and see, the thing is every religion back in the beginning, and I'm going to pull on some Terry Pratchett here. Every religion back in the beginning has been or has included some form of sacrifice. When we hauled up a pig for Yule, that was part of the sacrifice. Yeah. We ate the sacrifice because, pig is tasty.
Or when, as people we know have done for certain symbols and stuff,
right.
Sacrifice a goat.
Right, but then we eat it.
Yeah, because we're practical people.
Winter was too long and too cold to not be practical. But we have the thing is there are still going to be people who follow these old things. And that is a danger of having a theistic faith. You're going to have people who are going to take it too far.
In the name of
whatever
deity or deities.
They will blow up planes and bomb roads and all this other stuff in the name of whatever. And there are just as many, radicals of every faith. There are, in fact, radical Buddhists. Seems like a weird concept.
Yeah, that's one of the weirdest things for my mind to process. I know you're not wrong, but...
Well, I mean, I'm wrong about a lot of things, but this isn't one of them.
Not about that, though. But those two things are so dramatically opposed that my brain sort of wobbles a bit.
Okay, we're beginning the wrap-up?
Yes, it's about time for us to stop our ramblings, which hopefully saddens a few people, but I wouldn't doubt there's a listener or two out there going, yay, they're shutting up.
Screw those guys. We're going home.
We're kind of getting that look from our technical crew, actually. But they love us on some level or wouldn't be here. All right, so this has been This Weird Road.
With Ulf
and Boli. And we will be back with you in 2 weeks' time. We don't really have any events to plug right now, but we will then, I'm sure.
Yeah.
A couple of things that we know are coming up haven't been set in stone yet, so we don't want to plug them to you guys until we have a date. But hopefully you've enjoyed walking this road with us for our second episode now.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully you'll be back for our third. Boli, we've talked about a couple of things. Do we know what topic we're gonna throw at people next show?
Not a clue. Thank you for asking that.
All right.
Thank you for putting me on the spot, jackass.
Well, a lot of times you respond well to pressure, damn it. All right. So we have a couple of things. We actually have a couple of irons in the fire, folks. But we will bring you something good and poignant and at the very least, I can promise, entertaining as hell. 1L. So until next time, like I said, this is Ulf saying, may you keep your hearts good, your road clear, and the 9 in your hearts.
And this is Boli saying, if you have any questions or want to make any comments, because I know you're all trolls and you want to, you can contact us at 502-276-5665. That is the PTRN caller line. Leave us a message. We will address anything that you leave there, unless it's just like fart noises or something.
We'd love to hear your questions and opinions. So
you can also reach us on Facebook at ThisWyrdRoad or email at ThisWyrdRoad, all of those spelled with a Y, because, you know, we're totally gothic and use umlauts.
and Gmail.
Psst. You did it. You made it to the end of the show. You listened to the outro and everything. You're a dang trooper. This is Boli Thorn, and I just wanted to say thank you for listening. And as a reward, the first person to email us at ThisWyrdRoad, spelled with a Y, at gmail.com will receive one book from my library that will be relevant to the show. Additionally, if you would like, you can send us a request for a topic, maybe a song you want to hear in the middle, whatever you like. Give us your info in that email, and I will send you that book. Thanks for listening, everyone. This is the reason we do it. I'd also like to say that many of you probably think we're just full of it, running off at the mouth. But the fact is, Ulf and I take this very seriously. And we've got a lifelong dedication to it. We feel that levity is the best way to get people to listen. So, we're not just big goofs. We do study. We follow these faiths faithfully. And we want to share that with everyone who wants it. So again, thank you for listening. Contact us at thisweirdroad@gmail.com. And the first one to respond to this particular bump gets a book from my library. Put bump in the title of your email, and that'll get it. Thanks for listening. Have a great day.